Do you know where his trust account was?
Mm-mm. He used to bank at Pioneer when I worked with him. They've been out of business for years.
Yeah, well, they evolve. They didn't go out of business. They evolve.
That's where the last accounts that I knew he had were when we worked on Centenary. He banked at Pioneer.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't know anything about his banking.
Form SSA 1099. Do you know what attorneys Bob has been working for?
Since he was suspended,
Well, since they gave him his provisional back where he's not allowed to work for himself, he can only do work for other people.
no,
He hasn't
he
done
hasn't
any
worked
work.
at all. He worked for a time after he was suspended for, as a paralegal for Chuck Strickland, Charles Strickland. But that didn't last long.
Is
Chuck
Charles
just-
Strickland in a firm?
He was, but I noticed the other day I saw a building with his name on it on, like Fannin Street or somewhere. I think he's practicing with some woman lawyer now. I don't know if they just share space or if they actually work together. I don't know. I probably haven't talked to him in 3 or 4 years. Or longer.
Is Bob's lawyer's name, is it Schiff? Is that the correct pronunciation?
He had a, you mean for the reinstatement?
Correct.
Or for the, he had a lawyer from, an old man from
Opelousas?
somewhere in South Louisiana
Mhm.
that came up and represented him at a hearing, and I testified at it. But I can't remember his name. His
It says
daughter's his
Schiff.
paralegal.
Let me ask you this. Was there an attorney in the Shreveport or Bossier area that arranged for that?
I don't think I was involved in that. I think I called a lawyer at maybe at the Weems firm. There was a lawyer that was suspended for a year for inappropriate relations with a client. And he went back to work, and I called and talked to him and asked him who represented him because Bob was fixing to try to get reinstated. And he told me that man's name. Was it Kerry Schiff or is that Kerry Schiff is here?
That's Kerry Shrimp. that's
Yeah.
there.
I don't remember.
It's spelled a little bit differently, I believe.
But anyway, I called that man and talked to him, and then he called Bob, and then he came to Shreveport, and I met with him and Bob, and then I left. I just introduced him and I left
Where was the meeting?
at, I think it was at El Dorado Casino, because he was staying there. That lawyer was gonna stay there that night.
Okay.
And I was there about 10 minutes, just introduced Bob to him.
Now, did Bob have to make, was there a hearing at the ODC in Baton Rouge?
I'm sure there was. Oh, I don't know. The only one that I went to was the one here.
And that was Elda Tucker and,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she's married to a friend of mine.
Her brother worked with me at LSU and he died right
Pardon?
before. Her brother worked with me at LSU and he died right before, like the week before that hearing.
Hmm. So when Bob was practicing, you don't know where his trust account was located?
No,
Do you know if he maintained one?
I don't know.
Okay. But he's required to, correct?
I don't know. If a solo practitioner, I haven't looked at the bar rules in a while, so I don't know. Used to be some provisions that
He's
unless
supposed
they
to-
were in a firm, they didn't, you know, there was something, I don't know. I think they've changed it that now
It says,
all
that
attorneys
he
have to.
maintained a trust account as required by the Louisiana State Bar Association on the recommendation. So he was required to. I'll tell you what, why don't we break here and we'll come back at 1:30. Is that okay with you?
I mean, I'm good to go.
You good to go?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go. All right. I just, based on your last pause, I didn't want to keep you in the chair that long. I think we go to, I'm sorry. And you?
I'm okay right now.
Okay. Why don't we make an agreement as we stop here as to a good stopping point so y'all could have some time? How much time would you like?
For lunch?
Yes.
Oh, I don't mind. I'm just gonna eat a little snack bar or drink a.
I'm not eating until I get back home. I have stomach problems. I can't eat out.
I feel like I get this kind of blame sometimes when I travel, but people in my family, I won't let them out. I just drive. And I've been corrected a few times in my life, so I'm trying not to get in that position with either one of you. Anyway, we'll continue on for a few minutes, and you can tell me when you would like to stop.
Okay.
All right?
I put my foot up. I'm good to go now. I'd like to go back and let's talk about Hendricks a little bit more. I'm sorry. Why do you think the judge won't sign and release Joey from the case? I just saw in the minutes where he filed a motion. I didn't look at it.
He filed it 3 times.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he did. It seems like Judge Nair won't let him out. But you know, it being the exception being interlocutory, I can come back and I think give a business records affidavit with all the papers I turn in, and they should grant jurisdiction under its specific jurisdiction, but it's been a mess. You testified a few moments or a few minutes ago, maybe 10 minutes ago, that you sent somebody else to use Joey's services, Joey Hendricks' services.
Mhm.
That person, based on, I mean, it's pretty much unquestionable that your relationship between Joey Canatella and Joey Hendricks is much stronger than Canatella, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Not even close.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Joey Hendricks wouldn't know me if he saw me on the street.
I think there's a lot of people that could probably say that actually have met Joey. And anyway, why would the person that you sent to Joey Hendricks, that person is not somebody that you would have originally want to send to Joey Canatella?
I'm thinking Joey was in the hospital then. He was in the hospital for like a year. He almost died 3 times.
Hmm.
He had a bowel obstruction and he had a lot of problems. And he again, I was called in and said he's not gonna make it through the night. But he didn't. I'm thinking maybe that was during that time.
Would you be closer to Canatella or to Jared Franklin? Or the same?
Jared is more of a professional relationship. Joey's more of a personal relationship. Joey's
You
friends.
still have that professional relationship with Canatella, but it's also, you have more.
Joey went to school with my husband. They were friends in high school.
Okay.
So no, my husband's known him,
That's
and
an easy explanation that way. I understand. Okay.
my husband and Jared have played golf, but they haven't hung out together.
And where did your husband go to high school?
Fair Park.
He went to Fair Park. Okay. And he also is retired?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. During the period of time when I was working with Bob Booth, do you know of anybody soliciting Bob Booth or information about my relationship with him during that period of time, such as Allison Jones, Brandon Politz, Gibson Laborde, Herschel Richard, Todd Benson?
I've never had a conversation with any of those people, to my knowledge, and I've not ever known Bob to know any of them.
Did you know that Todd Benson lived down the street from Bob for a period of time on Dresden?
I did not.
Yeah.
I don't know Todd Benson. I don't know anything about him. Never met him.
John Callenbach,
Don't know him.
he's the head of Cook Yancey King Galloway today. He's the president of the firm.
Don't know him.
I would normally call him a managing partner, but they corrected me. I asked if he was the managing partner. They said, no, he's the president of the firm. Lee Ayers,
Don't know him.
Curtis Shelton,
Used to be the clerk of court. Same one?
Curtis Shelton?
Maybe not. I don't know him, I guess.
Would Curtis Shelton have ever been the clerk of court?
Maybe not.
I think so.
Is he a real estate lawyer? The
Um,
name sounds familiar, but I don't think I know
He's a
him.
UCC lawyer normally.
I don't know him.
And I hear he's gone off into divorce now. I don't know what all he's doing. He used to be part of Cook Yancey King Galloway with Lee Ayers and Benson, but they got sent out into the wild. Because where I'm sitting now, and based on my level of knowledge through this, which wasn't very much in the beginning, other than I felt I got screwed and I was trying to learn as I went along, I feel that I'm the dog that got wagged by the tail. And what I mean by that, it looks like Bob Booth went to if you look at the allegations in the petition, which we can go back to, basically what happened is he stuck it to Benson in the petition, and it looks like if he's not taken care of, he could correct the petition with its imperfections and perfect it, and Benson really would have had some problems. Because I know this, when I went to the hearing for the extension, he was not doing well in that hearing. And I'm talking about, I looked in his face and he really looked upset.
Who are we talking about?
Todd Benson. My point is, it really, to me, looks like that the aid that I got from Bob Booth, that he just pulled the plug on it at some point, and he turned everything in a different direction because he needed money at that time. Now, you said here, and it's been your testimony, that he's not worked for an attorney since he got his license back. Is that correct?
He doesn't have his license back.
Pardon me?
He doesn't have his license back. He was suspended for 2 years all those years ago, and he's never gotten his license back.
Because he got it, supposedly he got it back on March. That order says he got it back.
It says if he does, I'm sorry, that my understanding was that he had to jump through some hoops to get it back. They said you can have it back, but
Mhm.
you've got to do this, this, and this, and he was not able to do those things.
Because I looked on the internet and it shows him active.
He's not.
Okay.
He's never been active since he was suspended. His 2-year suspension's turned into,
That was in 2009, you're saying?
right, he's not practiced since then.
I had a phone call and he told me he was working again. I talked to him last summer, I believe it was. It's the only time I talked to him in a couple of years. All right.
He has an order that says if he works, I think their order, paraphrasing, says that he cannot solo practice. He can
Correct.
work for a firm as an employee.
Correct.
And he's not ever had anybody offer to hire him, or not ever had anybody agree to let him work for their firm.
Well, and something like that, they could farm out work to him when they're overloaded, or he'd be like a substitute teacher who is used when they're, or they give him work when they're overloaded. I would see that would be, you know, if I was of his age, 74, 75, and I wanted to take work in that way, that would be a nice way to occasionally do work and keep your fingers around things.
Well, then you find a law firm that will farm out something to an attorney who doesn't have a computer.
That's a different story.
There you go.
That is a completely different
He's
story.
never,
I've been puzzled about that since I first met the man. I took him a USB key on the first day. That's when he first started bragging about Carla, the best I've ever had as a paralegal. He told me that on the very first day. Of course, I'm in
I hope
shock.
anybody I've ever worked for will tell you that.
I'm in shock.
I
the
believe
first-
about 5 of them would anyway.
Well, you know, it takes a lot for a guy who's standing in front of somebody in the summer of 2008 who's got a USB key, and he shows up in that office in the Beck building. He's like, well, where's the computer for this to go in? And he doesn't have one. Because I showed up to get one sentence put on a piece of paper.
That's what happened with him and Chuck Strickland. Chuck was like, well, research this. And Bob got up to go to the library, and Chuck was like, where are you going? And Bob knows how to research in the books in the law library, but he doesn't know how to do research on a computer. I was serious when I said he doesn't know how to Google something.
I believe you to an extent.
I mean, no, he doesn't work. The only way that he could work anywhere would be if they gave him a paralegal or a secretary, or if he took the stuff and brought it to my house and I typed it for him.
Have you ever known him, do you know if he's ever had a case in front of the state Supreme Court in the state of Louisiana? Is it possible in the 70s or the 80s he had a case going from the Supreme Court of the United States?
I know that when I went to work for him, he had just settled something called Black, where there was a guy in a motorcycle wreck and had lost his leg, but I don't know if it was to the Supreme Court or not. I've never seen Bob in court. I've never seen him. I've
In
never
almost
known that he
40
had a
years.
trial. Mm-mm. I've never seen him in court. Every other attorney I've ever worked with, I used to go and sit at the table with him in court. Bob didn't go to court. He used to go and do like consent judgments on divorces.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I've ever heard of him doing. But I've never seen him in court, except as when we would go look at it, watch a trial or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I don't believe Bob will ever practice law again.
You
Bob's.
said that before.
I did try to call him when I got served, and his phone's been disconnected. Or it says your call cannot be completed at this time, and it said that all week.
When you left LSU, was it University Health or was it LSU?
I left the day it changed. My last official day was the day that it changed, but I had already been home for about 4 months then, burning leave time, before I went out on disability.
Okay.
I had to use all my vacation and all my sick days, and I had 6 months
Okay.
of time to save that they made me use before my disability would kick in.
And since you've left up there, you've not worked as a contract paralegal for anybody?
Mm-mm.
Not Jerry Franklin, anybody? Okay.
I mean, I talked to him, you know.
But you're not doing any active work for them? Okay.
I can't hold a complete thought long enough to do active work.
So that would be June, July 2013?
Mhm.
Has Joey Canatella ever obtained, negotiated a settlement or a payment for you in the last 10 years?
You mean from,
From anything?
I can't think of anything.
What about Jared Franklin?
Jared settled a collection suit against me. They were trying to get like $8,000. They settled for $1,000. We were gonna appeal it, and we talked about it, and it was gonna take too much time, so we just paid him $1,000. It went away.
Was that filed in cattle?
I don't know if they ever filed suit.
Hmm.
I think they were just trying to collect something, and I was fighting it, and I was working for him, and he said, "Why don't you just try to settle it and be done with it?" And he made a phone call for me.
When was that, more or less?
I worked for him from 7 to 11. No, 7 to 10. About 3 years, I guess. I don't remember.
Okay. So in the last 10 years, say from let's say 2008 till now, okay, which would be 9 years, Joey Canatella and Jared Franklin, the settlement aside, as far as him, because you're actually paying money,
Mm-hmm.
so that's not the question I'm asking here. As far as Joey Canatella, or anybody associated with them in the firm, because I don't know, does Joey Canatella have another attorney that he works
Mhm.
with besides, he and Joey Hendrickson business back and forth?
Mm-mm. They've never practiced together to my
No, I'm not
knowledge.
saying that they practice together, but they might have a loose association where they're sending business back and forth.
Not really, I wouldn't say
Okay.
that. They've consulted on a couple of cases. I don't think I've received any settlement for anything in 10
Could you be
years.
more definite about that?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Since 2009. Or I said since 2008, excuse me.
I can't remember yesterday.
I just can't find my glass most of the time.
I can't think of anything I've received a settlement for.
So is your disability SSI income?
No.
Is it from the hospital, from a private plan?
I had disability for 2 years. The first 2 years I was out from the Hartford, which was a private
Okay,
plan
yeah,
that I had
I
purchased.
know them. I sold
I had,
insurance for a long time.
I was awarded Social Security complete, permanent, total disability, but I was a state employee, so I didn't get any money. After 2 years, I got Medicare. That's all I got. Because I never paid Social Security the last 7 years I was working at LSU, or the last 5 years. It
Because
was
they had their own plan?
your state employee, state teachers retirement. So I didn't get any money from my Social Security. I had 2 years of disability from Hartford, and that's been over for almost 2 years now.
I'm gonna ask you the same question, but a little bit different way. Has anybody either closely related to you or blood, such as your brother or somebody like this,